What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here. I have the pleasure of chatting with Ali Cook, the director of the short film The Pearl Comb, which is currently shortlisted for Best Live Action Short at this year's Academy Awards. Ali, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. So, you really create a beautiful film that this film, it feels very tactile. So
Yeah.
objects, textures, and gestures carry so much meaning. I really want to know, how did the physical details become part of the emotional language of this film?
Wow. Now you have really analyzed my film. That's a great question. Everyone normally says, "How did you come up with it? Where did you shoot it?" But you're straight in with the big bucks. So here we go. There was a type of art called Dutch vanitas paintings that were big about 150 years ago, and they were very thick oil paintings, usually of still life, and there'd be a skull always next to like a bowl of fruit with very strong lighting, and there were lots of sort of greens, greys, blues, and oranges. And my first short film that my friend directed, we took this style of these oil paintings and tried to adapt it. And then I took the same visual style and then pushed it even further for the Pearl Comb, basically. So that's how you end up with this sort of very thick look, this rich look. And we had a very specific LUT on the camera with very kind of extreme settings. And then we had a very strong grade. So that's kind of how we did it. And coupled that with the production design, where in Victorian England, everything's very busy. It's like the kitchen is just rammed full of plates and vases and things on that's just that Victorian era, basically. So I think it's those two elements.
And speaking about that, the production design, the visual effects, everything is just visually stunning. It's such eye candy. I remember I had to watch it twice just because there was so much to look at. And I want to know, when you were designing the look for the mermaid, right?
Yeah.
Because mermaids are so integral to stories like this. Can you talk about how you went about creating your look for this mermaid?
Yeah, so the original myth that came out of Cornwall, the mermaids were absolute vicious killers. And I really like, I think my dream is to do dark Disney, is to take any is to take any Disney film and do the most extremely dark version of it. And so it was sort of to do a mermaid much more like the original myths, basically.
Mhm.
So instead of like a lion looking like a beautiful lion in The Lion King, I wanted the mermaid to look like a lion that you would see in a documentary that's a bit bedraggled, a bit starving, still beautiful, but you can tell it's real. And so how we did it was, firstly, we designed the tail off of a rainbow trout, which is I'm sure you're not into fishing, but rainbow trouts they are how
I'm
you
a city
imagine
dweller.
they are how you imagine a fish to be, silvery, iridescent blues and greens. So we kind of took that very simple design for the tail rather than too elaborate. At the top of the tail, it doesn't just cut off and she becomes a human. We made it very asymmetric, so more like a real animal. And then finally, on the grading, the color of the grade of the film matches the color of her tail, so she blends in with the landscape.
No. And talking about some of this, as you were putting this together, oh, that was my point. You referenced Dark Disney. I don't know if you've seen it. Maybe you have. Black Cauldron, darkest Disney ever went. One of my favorites.
Oh no, not seen it. Not seen it yet.
Ah,
No.
based on a fantasy series by Lloyd Alexander. Check that one out. They don't brag about that one, but that's dark Disney.
Yeah, I just love it. I love like when now Andor's come out, and I'm like, yes, it's like really dark Star Wars, So
So, as you were shaping the rhythm of this story, I mean, you really beautifully mix so many different genres effectively in a short amount of time. How did you go about, and maybe this came in the editing, when to linger on one and when to move on to another?
Now, that is so my first short film that I wrote, but I didn't direct. My friend Zoe directed that, and she's a documentary. She's a TV documentary director, which means that she's excellent at editing. Whereas I feel with myself, because I've an actor background and a writing background, I'm good on the day shooting, but the edit was tough. Now I had a great editor called Sadaf, but to get the rhythm right, oh my God, there's no. I wish there was a rule book, but there isn't. And in fact, I went looking. I read all those screenwriting books, looking for how do you edit things and I think you. There's been a few famous interviews with Martin Scorsese's editor, this lady, and she says she always edits for the feeling, not for the perfect cut in the move. You can edit technically. One movement matches the next movement, but really, although there is some really slick editing in there, you've got to go for the emotion or just enough time for the audience to catch up on the plot. So that's the other thing that there was a bit where Looty, the fisherman, he first gets mesmerized by the mermaid, and then it cuts to him walking, carrying her. Now I just have 3 steps of him walking, carrying her, just to allow the audience to take in what the hell's just happened, basically. And I think you need a couple of those bits as well, but it's a little bit of trial and error. There's no magic formula.
No. And now reflecting on that, and congratulations on directing your first film, always a wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you. Thanks.
And you decided to not only direct the film, write the film, you also put yourself in the film.
Yeah, I'm a real for attention. So it's like
But you're not the first person to do that. So, and I
no.
love to ask this, especially with a first time film director. So now, as you reflect on the process of putting together the Pearl Comb, think about someone else who's looking to do the same thing. What would you say was your greatest learning and best practice that you're excited to take into your next project? And what would you say is a learning curve that you're hoping to skate by next time?
Oh gosh. So I think probably the main one but I'm already quite aware of this is we had a lot of VFX. We have 96 VFX shots, and that's excluding just error shots, where you're painting something out or whatever. So it's VFX heavy. It's like making a Star Wars type show. But because of that, we were very committed to the shot list. Because if you veer away from your shot list, it just costs you more money, and we couldn't afford to do that. So because of that, we were very disciplined. So we really knew every step of the way what shots we're after, and we're not going for random coverage. We are going after certain shots, moving on. That's really how. So I'd say that's the thing I would say to anybody. But in terms of what I would say is, don't try and do a film with a mermaid, because it's so technically challenging. As by far the hardest thing that a lot of people don't really realize is that when we film partly in the sea and partly in an outdoor tank, which was actually a Lido in the same area, now trying to match up the reflections of the sun on the water, very difficult. That I would say just shooting in and around water is very, very tough.
Fair point. Fair point. I know I've let you go in a couple minutes, but I'm just curious to know, what is it that you would like people to take away from the film after they've spent this time in your
Yeah.
world of the Pearl Comb?
Well, that's a great question. I think so. I'm also a professional magician, and I think that the really number one thing that I really like to do or want to do is to mesmerize an audience and then invite them into the world, so they really do forget about what's going on. And for me, that I always remember watching Twin Peaks when the DVD set came out, and I was watching it on a laptop like this in my bedroom.
Mhm.
But after 3 minutes, I'm just there, and the bedroom's melted away, and I'm just watching, and that's the number one thing. Because I feel that we all need a bit of that, an escape from our thinking. But it's not just that. I think also the other thing is just that we've got a fantasy film, but it's a fantasy film that's explaining this woman and her striving to be accepted as an educated woman. So it's those two things. It's the theme of the film, and then also that trying to have a mesmerizing quality.
I have to say, I was totally engaged. I actually looked in the history, the piece. I love Edinburgh. It's one of my favorite cities. Um,
Me too. Yeah.
so, reading the history, that was the first film festival I ever covered as a critic was EIFF.
Right. Yeah. I've only been
So,
to it once, but I had a great time there. It's a lovely
yeah.
festival.
So look, this is a wonderful film. Best of luck with the journey on it. I hope I'm hearing more about it as we progress through award season, and all the best with it. It's a
Oh,
beautiful, stunning film. It's amazing.
thanks, Mike. Cheers.
Have a good one.